guys, welcome to another episode of A Drummer's Guide to. Today I wanted to talk about something that was incredibly elusive to me as a kid, still is to be honest, and that is the concept of groove and feel. And this is, this was and still is, like a focal point for me in my drumming. It's what I consider to do best in my drumming. It's what I've always wanted to do best in my drumming. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it means to me, also how I sort of found out what that meant, and how to get it, how to get groove and how to be a groovy drummer, a groove-based drummer, with good feel, basically. And I'd like to hope that I am that. Some people may disagree, it's totally fine, but that's always my aim, basically, is to give everything I play really nice feel. And you know, I am not a chops player, I am not a technical player, but I can play a song and make it feel good, I hope. So okay, let me start out by saying that when I was very young, when I first started playing, and when I realised that this was the thing that drew me to the drums most, this was the thing that I connected with the most, although at first I didn't really realise what it was. I was actually told that this is by one person, that I probably wouldn't be able to be that player. I wouldn't be able to be a groove player. And they knew both me and Charisse, and their theory was, what they told me, was you will never have as good a groove as Charisse because you're white and she's black. And it sounds ridiculous now, but at the time I was like 11 years old. I didn't know anything, and as far as I knew, this person knew more than me about this, and I just took their word for it, and I just went, oh okay, well yeah, alright. And it put this limiting belief on my capabilities instantly, and it just meant, okay, well, I'm not allowed to be that player because of who I just happen to be. And I put those restrictions on my player, that sort of side of my playing. I thought, okay, well that means that I'm meant to be a technical player, so I need to work on my technique and try and be that person. Although it made me so miserable, and you know, although I loved it, I still loved it because at the end of the day I was playing drums and I love drums. What it meant was I never felt quite at home. I never felt quite motivated enough. I never felt good enough, and just not fulfilled. Although at the time I didn't realise what these feelings were. I just was sort of, I loved the drums, but I wasn't happy with the player that I was, and it was very odd. Anyway, I dealt with this for years, until one day I just went, do you know what? No, hold on, that can't be right. That just can't be right, because there are players that are white that have wonderful grooves, so I can be that person as well. I just need to work at it, and I realised that you can develop these things. It's not whether you're born with it or not, it's whether you're willing to work hard at it. So I became obsessed. As you probably know about me already, I get quite obsessed with things, so here's basically what I did. Like I said, it was still this very elusive thing. It was like, what is groove? And you know, I know when it feels good. Not from my playing at the time, but more from when other people were playing. I was like, right, I'm nodding my head, I'm loving this. This sounds amazing. Why does it sound amazing? What makes me want to move to this? I don't really sort of understand. So I just set out on this journey to basically find out what groove is. And literally any drummer that I crossed paths with, I would ask them, like, okay, how do you get that feel? How does, and by the way, apparently the way that I say feel also sounds like fill. I remember asking one particular drummer who I adore, how did he develop his feel? And he replied, well, the feel in that song was actually really spontaneous. And I was sitting there going, oh, okay, yeah, thanks for answering my question, but in my head I was going, I'm such an idiot, I can't even pronounce the word feel, so I shouldn't even be allowed to be answered that question. Anyway, yeah, so I was just asking every drummer possible. I had lessons with drummers specifically just to talk about feel and time and groove and what that meant and how to develop it. I had a great lesson with Andrew Small, who is a drummer from the UK, and went round to his studio and we were talking about time, and he was talking to me about, okay, metronome. Do you play to a metronome? And I was like, yeah, I practice to a metronome, you know. He's like, all right, great. How do you see time? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, how do you see it? Like, if it was a shape, what would it look like? And I was like, it's kind of like just dun, 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 dun. And he was like, see, this is how I see it. It's more like this. Dun, 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 dun. And seeing it as this circular, round thing, you know, that was continuous, completely changed my whole view of time and metronome and all that sort of stuff. Click. So it was little nuggets of gold like that I kind of like clung onto, and I was like, right, so time is not linear. All right, time is more fluid. It's more of a circle. There's kind of no beginning or end, but there is, but it's more fluid than that. Okay, cool. And then I started thinking, okay, well, this probably makes sense. Let me think about the songs that I absolutely adore, the grooves and the feel, and let me find out who the drummers are. So I did that. So I looked, at the time I was listening to a lot of John Mayer, so I was looking up all the drummers that played on his stuff. So that was obviously Steve Jordan on the Continuum album, which was probably the first album I properly got into, and then JJ Johnson, who was doing a lot of his live stuff at the time. And then, who else was I looking at? I was looking at, Al Green. Absolutely adored that sound. I was just like, this is just perfect. It's so good. A lot of Steely Dan stuff, so that was obviously a lot of Jeff Porcaro, Steve Gadd, Bernard Purdie. And the Al Green stuff was Al Jackson Jr., as it turned out. Also, obviously, Bill Withers, who was James Gadson. Anyway, I got this list together of all these drummers that I just was like, their feel on those albums, those songs. Oh, a lot of Minnie Riperton as well, Jim Gordon. Oh my God, amazing. Anyway, I got together this list and I just went, okay, here's what I'm going to do, since I'm an obsessive person and very extreme. I'm going to now go on to, it was either AllMusic or Discogs or a mixture of the two, and I would find the drummer and everything that they've ever played on, and I would literally listen to everything that they had played on. And I mean, as I say, I'm a girl of extremes, but when you are so obsessed with something, that's just what you do. And I did, and I listened to, I mean, thousands of tracks. And and I added people like Levon Helm to this list as well. Although he was part of the band, turned out he's played on a bunch of like Norah Jones records and like all this other stuff, and I was like, this is amazing, like more modern stuff, which was so interesting, seeing his change of like groove and feel and where he places stuff for different songs, especially when it's not his songs, and of course he has his whole solo career as well. So I just became obsessed with that. The next thing that I did from that was I got together like my favourite songs from those players, and I made a playlist. And what I did was, every day I would spend hours, and I'm talking about hours, playing along to these records, playing along with these drummers, playing along to the other musicians on this record, on these records rather, and I would record myself on my little mini tape recorder, which I wish I could find. I'm sure I have it somewhere, because I'm sure there's some really old recordings on there, and if I find it, I will upload it somewhere, because I'm sure it'll at least give you a laugh, I'm sure. But I would record myself playing along to these things, and then I would listen back. It would inevitably sound awful. I would be nowhere near, that drummer, their groove, their feel, locking in with the other musicians. It would just be awful. I'd then go, okay, calm myself down, try it again. It'd be like 0.00001% better the next time. Okay, cool, do it again. So if you think about it like this, every time you would record it, say that a song is 4 minutes long, you'd record it 4 minutes, then you come back in and you listen back 4 minutes. So that's 8 minutes. Let's say a minute in between of sort of like faffing around and stuff. Alright, let's say 2 minutes just to round it up to 10 minutes. So in an hour, I was only actually playing 6 times, but I'd be listening back 6 times and adjusting. So even that 0.00001%, it was getting better. It was exponentially just getting closer and closer to locking in with this drummer. And I think initially, actually, if I'm really honest with myself, I just wanted to be these drummers. I wanted to be Steve Jordan. I wanted to be Bernard Purdie. I wanted to be James Gadson. But actually, as time went on, and as time continues to go on, I realised that there's always going to be an element of me. There's always going to be an element of exactly, like all the influences that I've had over the years. Every single little experience comes into me and comes out of me when I play. So I was never going to be exactly that player, and actually what I realised was that's something to be celebrated. We're all our own player, you know, no 2 drummers are the same, none, like not even slightly, and that's a really great thing. But if I could sort of like bring these players into the DNA of my playing, then I figured I'd kind of be in a good place to kind of like start at the very least. But anyway, as I did this sort of like this intensive mental practice, I gradually sort of saw a change in my playing. And of course, you know, at the weekends or in the evenings, I would be out gigging with bands, and I saw a noticeable difference of people reacting to my playing. So people have all that sounds really big-headed, what I was just about to say. I was gonna say, but don't take this in a horrible, like in a bad way. Like people always responded well to my playing. Like when I was playing with them, it always was like positive, which was great. But then there definitely was a change when I started playing and I would see the musicians move more. Or really, you know that groove face that everyone has? You know, let's do a bass player, like that. That kind of groove face. I was seeing more of that, and I was just like, oh, this is working. This is good. Then it sort of emanated. So it went from being just like the bass player, then maybe the guitarist, then maybe the singer. Now, if the singer actually realises that there's a change and they're getting into it, you're definitely onto a winner. But then it emanated into the crowd, and some of the crowds were all of 4 people on a Sunday afternoon in Hammersmith and, you know, playing covers. But those 4 people were responding, and they were moving their heads, and sometimes they were dancing, and sometimes it was because they were drunk, but sometimes they weren't. And then it's sort of like the crowds became bigger and more people would be moving, and it was just this interesting sort of change of like, this is working, this is it, like I'm becoming the player that I've always wanted to be since I was like 11. And I'd say that this change probably started happening around when I was maybe 22, maybe 23. And it opened up everything for me, because suddenly I was becoming this player that I always wanted to be, and I knew how to get there. And I knew that if I just did more of this, then I would, and I continue to do more of this. You know, I'm not saying that I'm where I want to be, because I'm not. I don't think I ever will be. I think that that's the blessing and the curse of music, as I always say. Like, you can never know everything. You can never be great at everything. It's just a journey. You can just improve on stuff and get more towards where you want to be. But yeah, I continue to do this. I still play along to tracks of, you know, drummers or yeah, just songs that I love the feel of, and I try and lock in with them, and I try and just like, you know, just become a part of it, you know, settle into a song. And I still record myself and I listen back, admittedly with a slightly more advanced setup than just that mini tape recorder. Yeah, and I mean, to me these days, groove to me is a feeling. It's something that hits you in the gut, you know. I mean, I'm all like, I love watching players doing all the mad, you know, crazy stuff. That's wicked. But the thing that will literally make me break down in tears, and it happens, it does, and you're gonna think I'm mad, is when I hear a drummer just going get, and it hits me in the heart and the stomach, and I'm just like, oh, and it wins me. And you know, that's to me like heaven, absolute heaven. And so what groove to me is just, you know, it's that feeling, it's that motion. It's still not linear. In fact, it's not even that anymore. It's kind of this fluid thing like that. It makes you want to dance, and it's almost like a warm blanket around the whole song, I suppose, and this cohesive thing that is projected out to an audience. And yeah, it's still pretty elusive, but when you're playing and you know, you're in that groove, you can feel it. And you know you're there, definitely. And that doesn't mean that you can't improve upon it and make it even more, like, feel even more amazing and warm and gorgeous. But yeah, I'd say if you want to get towards that elusive groove thing, definitely playing along to drummers, artists that connect with you, that make you feel something. If you can connect to that and then see why that is and recreate it, then maybe it'll become part of your DNA and the way that you approach playing songs or just playing generally. Another interesting thing, of course, is finding out about the drummers who have played on records, but then another slightly obsessive thing I used to do, find out who their influences were. I would read like so many biographies and interviews and just all sorts of stuff to try and work out why drummers played the way that they did. I didn't do that as intensely as recording myself playing to these drummers, but it was definitely an element of how I developed my groove, I guess. But yeah, anyway, have I rambled enough today? I'm pretty certain I have. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I will be back next week with another topic. I don't know what that is yet, because I do these things quite on the fly, to be honest. But yeah, I hope you guys are having an awesome day. If you want to see any more of my videos, subscribe, and you can watch them in the playlist. Also, if you go to drummersguide2.com, then you can find a ton of other videos. I've got a podcast on there, I've got some written blogs, I've even got an Alexa skill now, which I shouldn't say too loud, because I've got an Alexa down there. But anyway, hope you guys are having an awesome day, and yeah, I'll be doing some sort of live stream this week. I'll put in the comments when that is, so I hope to see you then. Okay, I'll speak to you guys soon. Alright, bye!